And I believe we're there now. Are we not, Emily?
Yes, sir. And would you like the agenda on screen, or would you prefer to see committee members?
I prefer to see committee members. I do have a hard copy of the agenda. If that changes, any of us can ask for it to be popped up for a bit.
Okay.
Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. It's 2:01 according to my computer screen time. We are sitting today as the Committee of Adjustment, and we will be hearing an application for both consent and as well another application for minor variance. Sandra, I believe you're with us. Could you please go to the explanation of our process for today?
Yes, good afternoon. It's good to see everybody. This is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment, and you can hear me now? Yes,
We
great.
can hear
Thank
you, Sandra, yes.
Great. So the committee will be hearing one minor variance application and one consent application. This is a special meeting called because of the meeting in July wherein power was lost and connection to the internet was lost. So the consent application was not heard. And committee also said that any of the deferred applications from July that were ready could come forward again. So the one minor variance is ready and is coming forward. During the course of the meeting, the chairman will introduce each application and I will be giving a synopsis of the planning report and recommendation. The full report is on the township website. Should anybody wish to review the full report. The floor will then be open to the public, and anybody who wishes to speak to the application must be recognized by the chair and must clearly and slowly state their name and address for the record. Every comment and question should be addressed to the chair and will be answered appropriately. So I'm going by memory with this one. The order of speaking will be those persons in support of the application, those persons in opposition to the application, those persons seeking clarification, and the applicant will have an opportunity to speak at the end should they desire. Should you desire a copy of the notice of decision for these applications, please put your request in writing to me via my email, or you may drop a note in our drop box at the left-hand side of the front door of the municipal building in Camborne. When making a decision, the committee members will provide reasons for their decision and how the input of the public influenced their decisions. I believe that's what I needed to say. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Sandra. Our next order of business is the confirmation of agenda. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Larry, seconded by Pat. I need to speak to this before we actually vote on it. I do have an amendment to the agenda that I would ask your support on, and it is under section 9 of the agenda, other business, and it's dealing with next month's Committee of Adjustment meeting, and it will be a discussion on the date or dates as it relates to the number of applications that may very well be brought forward. So if the mover and seconder is in agreement, I would propose a slight amendment to the approval that's on the table, adding that to bullet point 9.1 or as 9.1. So would the mover and seconder be in agreement with that? Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Larry. So it will be a discussion under 9.1. So confirmation of the agenda with that amendment. It's been moved, been seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Moving on, the next item on our agenda is the approval of the July 13th, 2021 minutes. Could I entertain a motion and a second to that, please? Pat, Mark, please. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you very much. Business arising from the minutes. This is a returning application for minor variance, A 12-21. It's located on the 45 highway. Sandra, if I were to turn this over to you, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is at 4107 County Road 45. The applicants are Jamie Van Horn and Trevor Garrett. And I've been given notice that Mrs. Kelly Burnett will be the agent speaking for them this afternoon. It's recommended the committee enact as follows: receive the report, hear the members of public as requested, and that the application be denied as it does not appear to be in keeping with good planning principles. The notice of public meeting was circulated on August 3, 2021, and the signs were posted on the property August 9, 2021, in accordance with the Planning Act. The application was heard earlier in July and has since been amended. So they are currently seeking relief from section 525(1) to permit a total lot coverage of just over 8% instead of 5%. And from section 525(3) to permit the new detached accessory building to be 1,200 square feet, which is 129.87% of the size of the principal building, where a maximum of 462 square feet or 50% is permitted. The applicant's reasons for not complying with the bylaw: the applicants require a large garage to accommodate vehicles, storage, workbench, and a personal fitness home gym area. The existing bungalow was small with a gross floor area of only 900 square feet. Since this came forward a month ago, more detailed information was received by this department. The house is now listed as 924 square feet instead of 900. So that does just rejig most of the numbers for the proposal from last month to this month, but very minor in differences. The provincial policy statement and the township official plan do allow for residential uses and, of course, detached accessory residential buildings in this area of the township. So the proposal is in keeping with those general documents. With respect to the zoning bylaw, the property is zoned urban residential first density, and a 5% lot coverage of detached accessory buildings is permitted. The proposed building of 1,200 square feet accounts for my calculations of 8.1% lot coverage. Previously, the applicants requested relief from section 525(2) to permit the building to be in front of the principal building. However, the County of Northumberland was not supportive of this, as it was far too close to the County Road 45 right away. County has received the amended application and they have offered no objections to the relocation of the building. So that particular variance request has been removed from today's discussion. The section 525(3) of the bylaw requires that the gross floor area of the detached accessory building not exceed 50% of the gross floor area of the principal building. The detached accessory building at 1,200 square feet represents 129.87% of the house, which is 924 square feet. This was, again, slightly different than what was put forward last month, wherein the planning consultant did recommend denial. And I do continue to recommend denial of the 129% size of the house. When taking into account the definition of the dimensions of a parking space as found in the township bylaw, there will be room for more than 6 parking spaces within this building with 3 bay doors. The definitions in the zoning bylaw indicate that an accessory building is supposed to be subordinate to the principal building, and it's incidental to the principal use. When it's 129.87% of the size of the principal building, it's not subordinate, in my opinion. It will have an appearance of not being incidental And when it's larger by almost 1/3 of the house, we're supposed to be half the size of the house. I did provide some aerial photography within the report, and to the best of my ability, I scaled off the proposed building and put it on the aerial photograph. It's the yellow square inside of the red outline property. Thank you very much for that picture. When comparing that to what's in the neighborhood, there doesn't appear to be any other detached accessory building approaching this size or approaching the size of the house in the neighborhood. So this proposal to me would not be in keeping with the development of the neighborhood. The air photo also shows that the property is well buffered from the neighboring properties and from County Road 45 by a very mature tree line. So that could be something in favor of the applicant. The County of Northumberland had additional comments to what they put forward last month, but the other comments from the other agencies were the same. On October 3rd, the county said it appears the proposed garage has been relocated to the rear of the property, and a setback variance from County Road 45 is no longer being proposed, and the balance of our review remains applicable. Their main concern in July was proximity to the County Road 45 right of way. In conclusion, it's the opinion of this department that the proposal is not in keeping with the intent of the zoning bylaw and is not minor in nature, and I would recommend denial of a building of this size. However, committee will satisfy itself that the 4 tests of a variance are met prior to granting relief for each of the items being sought. Is the relief minor in nature? Does it maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? Does it maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan? And is it desirable for the appropriate development and use of the land? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, you're muted.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandra. The committee recognizes that the agent for the applicant is with us today. Just for clarity, Mrs. Burnett, we will be coming back to you in a moment after we go to the gallery to see who else is here in respect to this application. And I will do that now. Is there anyone other than the applicant's agent here in support of this application?
Mr. Bullerice did write in asking to be connected. I don't know if he's there or not.
Well, we'll turn that over to Emily. Emily, do we have anyone here that I wouldn't be able to see on our screen wanting to speak at this time?
We do have a phone number ending in 258 who has joined us in the gallery. So if they are here for that this application, they can unmute.
Hello? Hello?
Yes. Good afternoon.
Hello?
It's the Committee of Adjustment. We're in the process of dealing with an application for minor variance located on 45 Highway, County Road 45, I stand corrected. Are you here to speak to that application?
Yeah, all I got to say is I don't know why you won't build the place because you can't see it from the trees. And I plowed snow there for 20 years and it's just an empty spot. Like, there's not going to do no harm for a building being there.
Thank you. I believe we got the intent of your message, although it was broken a bit. Could you, for the record, state your name and your own personal address?
Bob Boris, I live across the road on 4098, County Road 45.
Thank you, Mr. Bullerice. Do you have any further comments?
No, I don't see what the problem is, why you can't give the guy a hard time.
We're just in the early stages of discussion here, Mr. Bullerice.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll turn to Sandra. Did you adequately get name and address for that individual?
Yes, I did, and it's my understanding that he is speaking in support of the application.
Yes, I believe we all did get that. Thank you, Sandra. Is there anyone else here in support of the application?
What happened? Hello?
Oh, there's,
We have someone speaking. I don't know who that is at this point in time.
Can
I
you hear
believe it
me?
was the
Kelly
agent.
Burnett?
no,
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I don't know who you are, but please speak.
Okay, my name is Kelly Burnett. My video won't work.
tell your address.
Kelly, we're not quite ready for you yet. Can we come back to you
Oh,
in just
okay.
a moment?
Okay,
Is there anyone else other than the agent for the applicant wishing to speak in support of this application? Seeing none, I'll move forward. Is there anyone here in opposition to this application? Seeing none, we'll move forward to see if anyone wishes clarification on this application. Seeing none, I will come back to the agent. That's you, Mrs. Burnett, and
okay,
it would be your opportunity to speak at this point in time.
okay. Okay, here we go. Start the video. There we go. Jamie said that the last time you guys met, she thought the biggest concern was the setback, and they've readjusted that. Their concern for having such a big garage is that their house is just so small that they have no room to park their vehicles, to store all their tools. Jamie is an electrician and Tanner is a power line technician, and they require a lot of tools to do their job. They also travel quite far every day into Pickering, Toronto area to do their job. So they really want to be able to both be able to park their vehicles in the garage, especially in the winter time. And they're both big workout fanatics. And with this pandemic, it really was an eye opener for them that with things closing, they really need to be self-reliant to maintain their physical and mental well-being and working out in their own personal gym. Their house is far too small for that. So they were hoping to build this garage,
Once.
yeah, just to accommodate that. And as far as getting a house that's got a bigger garage and the capabilities for them, with the market today, it is impossible. I mean, as it stands right now, this little house they bought cost them an arm and a leg, and to sell and then to try and find something that works for them is almost impossible.
Close to the 401.
Yeah, and close to the 401, the location as well. And when they bought this house, they knew it was small, and it was to the extent they wanted to go as far as mortgage, and it was right at the 401, which is good for them both traveling with work. So
Garage won't be seen.
the garage, the most part you're going to see of the garage is going to be the front, which will be 30 feet. It'll only have 2 garage doors in it for them to park their vehicles in. And then the other garage door they have now changed is they're going to put it in the back of the garage on the side so that they can just open and close it for going in and out of their personal gym. So as far as appearance goes from the road, it'll just look like a 30 by 30 garage.
You won't even see it.
Yeah, and you won't even see it because of all the trees.
Maybe in the winter.
So I'm just speaking on behalf of both of them today because they are both working. If this is going to be a problem, Jamie asked that I defer it.
Instead of paying it.
Yeah, instead of paying another $900. So you guys let me know what you think, which direction we should go.
We're about to do that, I believe. Mrs. Burnett, for the record,
Okay.
could you give us your address, please?
Yep, it's 8854 Slater Street, Coburg, Ontario, K9A 0V2.
Um,
And
I thought possibly originally you were a family member, but you're an agent as an associate to this property.
No, I'm Tanner's mom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're familiar with this property since their purchase then is what I was really getting at.
Definitely, yes.
Our house is about 8 houses away.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I do have questions just to let the rest of our committee members know, but I will turn it over. Bill, do you have questions on this application?
Okay, thanks, Scott. I'm not sure I have questions. I have a contribution. First of all, I'm going to speak in favor of this. All the contributing agencies, there are no objections from any of them. Questions that were asked that were pertinent, I believe, were asked by our building department, Tim. And those questions were answered in the statement made by Northumberland County with regards to would they approve this setback, and would they approve the septic? And they answered those questions in the statement that they made. There's no public opposition. In fact, the only thing standing in the way of this application, and I'm trying not to lose my temper here, is our official plan, which seems to me to have been under review for countless months and even years. The one variance that's being requested is with regards to increased lot size, could be considered minor. The second variance definitely is not. But we're back to dealing with a section of our official plan that we have asked and asked and asked and asked to have updated and changed because it makes no sense. And we put our planning department in the position where they have to defend a bylaw, which every member of this committee, unless you've changed your minds, every member in this committee has indicated that it is out of date. It needs to be brought up to modern times.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm going to stop talking because you could probably gather I'm at the edge here for my temper over this particular section of our official plan. So I'm gonna pass it on to somebody else.
Thank you, Bill. Just a point of clarification. I think we find what we're dealing with here is all zoning bylaw topics rather than official plan, but
My apologies.
that's a point of clarification only.
Right.
Pat, could I bounce to you, please? Questions, comments?
Bill said just about everything that I was thinking, except I'm not struggling with temper, just frustration. We really need to get this zoning bylaw corrected because I feel like this comes up so regularly that it's almost embarrassing. I'm also in support.
Thank you, Pat. Mark, questions or comments, please?
Sure, I agree with the first two speakers, and I mean, it'd make life a lot easier for Sandra if we can get this updated. The sooner the better, because I mean, she's only defending what's before her. And I can honestly say that, I come from a small, my house isn't large by any means, if I didn't have the shed that I have or the garage that I have beside the house here, I mean, I'd be lost for storage space and so forth. So no, I definitely support the application, much like the first two speakers.
Thank you, Mark. Larry, if you would, please.
Yes, I'm in agreement for the applicant, as the others have described. And as far as minor variance, although it doesn't seem to look like minor, it's realistic and it's should be done. We should approval.
Thank
That's
you,
all I got
Larry.
to say.
Thank you, Larry. I do have a question or two. I won't address what we've just been discussing from the committee level. I'll go in a little different direction. I need a little clarity if I could send this to Mrs. Burnett. You in your conversation with us indicated a 30 by 30 garage. Our application, I believe, is for a 30 by 40 structure. Does that mean that this gym area, exercise area is 10 by 30 in size? Okay, thank you. The other component is because at this point in time, I don't know where the actual septic field is. I know we have only one comment from the county and it's supportive. They, of course, have jurisdiction over the septic field. I know where the septic tank is because it's identified on the drawing and it's quite visible on site when you're there visiting that area. But where is the actual septic field itself? Mrs. Burnett, you're on mute.
How's that?
Much better,
Is that better?
much better.
Okay. The septic bed is directly behind the deck on the back of the house, and it stays in the measurement of the back of the house.
It doesn't go past the.
Okay, doesn't project upon either side is what we hear.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you. Those are the questions that I have. Thank you. Committee members, any further questions? Seeing none, I should entertain a motion, please. Moved by Bill, seconder. Mark?
That's to accept.
Yes. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Carried.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you. There is an appeal period. There is an appeal period, Mrs. Burnett, and a permit is required. You know, please have your family contact the township in the process that goes forward next.
Very good. Thank you all very much. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Moving on, we have a application for, oh, Sandra, you need reasoning there, sorry.
Yes,
To
thank
the
you.
mover and seconder, we need reasons for approval.
There were no objections from the commenting agencies. There were no public opposition. In fact, there was public support. The one variance does meet the standard of being a, meets the 4 standards of being minor. And I mean, I can't say that about the second one, but we all know that's a section that we need to change in our plan, and it's just not defensible.
Thank you, Bill. Mark, I believe you were the seconder. Do you have anything further you'd wish to add?
I just like to add that they have moved it to the rear setback instead of the front, instead of at the front. So I mean, so it's not going to be seen by a lot of neighbors and so forth, and it's going to be well hidden in behind. So I think it's you know, the applicants worked with our staff and have come along admirably and made this work for them. So I think that's all I really can add to what Bill's already said.
Thank you, Mark. Sandra, do you have sufficient information there?
Yes, I believe so. Thank you.
Thank you. When you're ready, Sandra, we shall move on to our next application, which is eluding me right now, other than the fact I know that it's the Irwin application for consent on Albert's Alley. So Sandra, when you're available, please proceed.
Yes, I'd just like to thank the Burnetts for attending. They're welcome to stay, but they are welcome to leave should they desire.
Great. Thank you very much for your help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. This is application B1221. It is returning from the July meeting. It was not heard at the July meeting due to the power outage and disconnection from the internet. The report is the same as was written by our consultants, Photon Planning. This is file B 1121, William and Deborah Irwin on Alberts Alley. It's recommended the Committee of Adjustment and Acts as follows. They received the application report that the members of the public be heard as requested, and the severance requested be adopted as it appears to be in keeping with good planning principles. Additional notice of public meeting was circulated on July 26, 2021, and the signs were posted on the property on July 30, 2021, in accordance with the regulations of the Planning Act. This application is to sever one new lot of 2.18 acres with 296 feet of road frontage on Alberts Alley for residential use. The retained parcel will be 65 acres with 204 feet of frontage on Doyle Road and 1,500 feet of frontage on Jib Road. The application is the subject of a previous consent under the Planning Act and a resubmission of B 2218 as the conditions of provisional consent were not fulfilled within the legislated timeline. The provincial policy statement does permit residential uses in the settlement area designation of the township. This is within the Camborne settlement area. And the official plan, excuse me, also permits residential uses and new lot creation in the settlement area. Part of the lot that is proposed does contain a steep slope, which was identified as a concern in the previous application, B2218. However, the applicant was able to demonstrate that a suitable building envelope will be provided as part of the severance to the satisfaction of the Conservation Authority. The previously submitted application was approved, but a deed was not submitted within the 1-year time frame for approval. With respect to the zoning bylaw, the lands are zoned urban residential first density, which requires 1 acre and 150 feet of road frontage for a lot that does not have municipal water. The proposal is in keeping with those dimensions. Agency comments, Township Public Works, they noted in June that the grading of the severed lot shall not have any negative impacts on the road allowance. Entrance shall be located at the northern portion of the property with the frontage of the severed, within the frontage of the severed lot due to topography and elevation. The building department had no objection, but noted prior to construction or site works, a building or site alteration permit is required. A more detailed site plan, including topography, setbacks, and erosion and settlement control measures, will be one of the permit application requirements. And on July 6th, they also added that the sketches on the attachment states a house on the parent property. This is not a house, it is an accessory building, and occupancy or change of use has not been issued by the building department. County of Northumberland, they've reviewed the application. Public lands consist of a sloped area along Alberts Alley, wooded areas and open space. Surrounding uses within the settlement area, Camborne, are primarily residential. The application states there's no agricultural operations within 1,500 meters of the subject land. The rural settlement area designation of the county official plan is intended for housing, employment area, in tourism and open space uses, and to provide for a mix of residential options. The lot creation shall be governed by the policies of the local official plan and recognizes that the rural settlement areas are to be the focus of growth. The county supports consents that conform to the local official plan. In conclusion, well, sorry, I'm not concluding yet. They support lot creation where they can be adequately serviced. They speak to the provincial policy statement and the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, which are both favorable to this application. The proposed lot would be serviced by a private individual well and septic sewage disposal systems. And the county's septic inspection services reviewed the application and has no objection. They looked at provincial interests and natural heritage, including agricultural resources and minimum distance separation. And in summary, the county provincial policies support the creation of new lots for residential uses in settlement areas where such development can be serviced adequately. County inspections had no concerns regarding servicing of the proposed lot, and minimum distance separation calculations were not required for a lot within the settlement area. Conservation Authority, they note that a permit from the Conservation Authority will be required prior to any construction or development of the property, but otherwise they have no objection to the approval of B 1121. The proposal does appear to be consistent with the governing documents, the township official plan, the county official plan, the provincial policy statement, and the township zoning bylaw. The property was rezoned previously with respect to B 2218. Should the committee grant the provisional consent, it's recommended the following conditions be imposed. The property owner conveyed to the township in the form acceptable to the municipality a grant of easement for any public utility easement, drainage easement, rights of way, or similar covenants in favor of the municipality that existed on the severed or retained lands, but which have expired pursuant to the provisions of Part 3 of the Registry Act 1990, as amended prior to the date of this decision. Submission of 3 hard copies, a PDF copy, and an AutoCAD copy of a reference plan identifying the newly created parcel. Submission of proof of payment of taxes. Submission of 3 hard copies of the deed suitable for stamping. And the conditions must be fulfilled within 1 year. I have received 2 letters from the public with respect to this application. I live at 3507 Alberts Alley with my family, which is up the road from the proposed severance. As I have previously expressed the concerns about this severance in particular. To quote the minutes and subsequent public notice from May 2019, issues such as, but not limited to, stability of the steep slope for development, existing road conditions, suitability of slope to accommodate well and septic, suitability of slope to accommodate building envelope, engineer designed entrance proposals. With respect to road conditions and access consideration, one of the questions that persists is a concern relates to Alberts Alley and a historical requirement for it to be widened to satisfy a 1993 consent application for a severance from the parent property in this application. At that time, a 6-meter widening was mandated to ensure the orderly development of the area. However, in this application, that setback and associated requirements do not seem to be addressed. Furthermore, the applicant's planning representative, Mr. McNeely, in 1993, indicated that no further severances would be sought along this road. This was their basis for appealing the road widening requirement that were upheld by the Ontario Municipal Board. Question: can the township or applicant's agent explain how this severance fits into that historical context and why a road widening would not be required here? The concern is that there is insufficient space without significant impact on the hillside and surrounding natural heritage features, not to mention a major cost to taxpayers if Alberts Alley needs to be expanded. Further to that, the official plan is quite definitive regarding restrictions on road extension improvement, specifically for steep grades as referenced within section 11.4.1 of the official plan. Any roads with a greater than 8% grade will not be considered for extension or enhancements. I've measured along the roadway and have found that along the proposed frontage, this road has over greater 10% change, well above the 8% max cited in section 11.4.1 of the Hamilton Township official plan. Question: there is a steep drop off into the ravine at the east side and steep slope on the west side that makes this a very difficult proposition. Can the township clarify how, if this road needs to be upgraded in the future to comply with the official plan, will this be undertaken? source water protection considerations. As presented to the Committee of Adjustment when the property first came before them in May 2019, during rain events, water running down off the hill, which this lot is proposed to be positioned on, travels along across the roadway, Albert's Alley, and across our property into the drinking water protection zone. I'm encouraged to see mention in the planning report of erosion and sediment control considerations will be included in the building permit stage. I'm concerned about how uncontrolled flow and the impact of additional septic systems draining into the drinking water protection area. Given the proximity of this development and the sensitivity of the water system for many of Camborne's residents, we feel this merits special attention where development will impact water quality. Our dug well is also located in this same area and will be directly impacted by water flows. We have recently received sampling results indicating high level of E. coli in our well, as well as the stream that is in proximity to this site, which raises some other questions about upstream runoffs relevant beyond this specific application. Other neighbors share the concern regarding water quality and the impact of water flow on their properties. Not all of them are able to attend these meetings given the time of day as a result of additional development in the area. Question, as such, I ask, will the Township of Hamilton require as a condition of severance that a hydrogeological study of the site and impacted area be included? This study would identify the specific subsurface hydrogeologic and geologic conditions and ensure that there are no detrimental downstream impacts to neighboring properties. As I stated when this application first came through in 2019, I'm not opposed to development, but I am opposed to development which is positioned to compromise the natural environment, waterways, and public roadways in such a significant and potentially detrimental way. As such, without satisfactory answers to these remaining questions, we are proposed to the severance until such time as those questions can be adequately resolved. Jordan Hogendam and family, 3507 Albert's Alley. Second letter. We reside at 3508 Albert's Alley, the second lot north of the proposed lot B 1121. As with the original severance proposal, we again have several concerns with this new proposal, primarily surface runoff, subsurface water, and slope and suitability of the land for building. We are also seeking clarification regarding road widening requirements. Concerning surface runoff, the slope of the proposed lot currently directs surface runoff toward the north and northeastern portion of the lot. This is especially evident and problematic during snowmelt and heavy rains. We are concerned that the location of the proposed driveway will cause the driveway to act as a water chute for all this runoff. We currently have issues with runoff starting immediately north of the proposed lot entrance at the crest of the knoll, with water running northward down the road rather than into the ditches, and large puddles forming on the road after rainfall and snowmelt. This affects 3 homeowners on this stretch of Albert's Alley. In winter and early springtime, we have an ice rink on the road immediately in front and south of our driveway. If the proposed driveway is graded to slope northward, it will exacerbate the issue. Not sloping the driveway, i.e. permitting water to simply run directly eastward onto the road, will do likewise due to the placement of the driveway at the crest of the knoll. If the proposed driveway were graded to slope upward, there would be major soil erosion as there is insufficient herbaceous vegetation to hold back the soil, and there are no engineering controls in place on the west side of Albert's Alley. What measures will the township put in place to ensure that surface runoff will not further affect the homeowners north of the knoll or compromise the integrity of the western ridge south of the knoll? We also have grave concerns regarding subsurface water. We have a flowing artesian well, i.e. we have no pump in the bottom of our well, only a pipe from the aquifer to the surface, as there is sufficient water pressure to force the groundwater to the surface. We monitor the pressure at our wellhead annually. In the past 8 years, the pressure has dropped from 16 psi to 10 psi. Yes, a drop of 6 psi. This is alarming, not only for us, but also for our neighbor to the south, who is also served by this well. In these 8 years, we have also noticed changes to our water quality. The iron content has increased, as has the hardness, and the water has developed a stronger odor. There's no explanation for the changes in our water quality other than a change within the aquifer, as we have no well infrastructure other than the main pipe that is kept clean by the pressure of the water and a spigot attached directly to this pipe. We are concerned that additional development, and especially cutting into the hill to optimize the lot for building, will further affect the aquifer and thus our water security and quality. Aquifers are not limitless vessels of water. They require replenishing, and in the hilly countryside of Camborne, this is achieved predominantly through natural sinks, i.e. swampland. Very little rain seeps into aquifers in hilly terrain. With increased occurrence and destruction of swamplands for residential development in this area, the rate of replenishment of the aquifers is not promising. Questions to the township. Has a recent hydrogeological study been completed to determine the volume of water in the local aquifers and thus their sustainability through continued population growth? Have the aquifers been mapped to assist with decision-making regarding development? Have the future water needs of the community been secured? Why are aquifer impact studies not required for development projects? Your decisions on the development today will affect not only our well, but also Camborne's well. A community without water becomes extinct. Our final major concern with the proposed lot is the slope and suitability of the subject land for building. Although there was approval for the lot for building, may we ask at what cost? How much grading, cutting into the slope, and slope retention will be required to accommodate a house and associated infrastructure? From what transpired during the development of lot B2318 directly to the south of the lot in question, it appears there will be equal, if not greater, disturbance to the land, particularly the slope. We are opposed to such invasive and landscape altering development. Also, how close to the eastern boundary of the proposed lot can the soil be disturbed without affecting the root systems of the trees along the ridge and thus determining the soil stability of the entire lot? In addition, as a reminder, this proposed lot is directly adjacent to the core protection zone of Camborne's groundwater protection zone. Will the township be implementing a buffer zone on the eastern portion of the proposed lot to ensure the integrity of the ridge is maintained? If so, will there still be a sufficient building envelope with the implementation of such a buffer? One of our concerns with the original application for the severance of lot B2218 had to do with the township's previous note that made mention of the requirement of widening Albert's Alley. At that meeting, we were told by the committee that road widening would not be necessary, reason not provided. Within the minutes of that meeting, a report referenced as Appendix C in the township and its representative, Mr. Bob Clark, states that in order for any further development to occur in Albert's Alley would have to be realigned and widened because of its substandard width, and it could only be widened by land conveyance from the subject parcel. He argued that unless this was done, it would preclude the orderly development of the lands to the south and would thus be contrary to the official plan policies. A land conveyance for road widening would have the effect of reducing the size of the parcel, thereby further reducing the land with an acceptable slope to accommodate a septic bed, the reserve tile field, and the building envelope. It appears that the widening of Albert's Alley was confirmed as necessary by the township and is, in fact, required per official plan policies. As the proposed lot addresses Albert's Alley, the road would need to be widened all the way to Doyle Road. The committee's response to the question of road widening and the township's consultant appear to be putting forth two opposing responses. Ironically, Mr. Clark is now acting as agent. Did Mr. Clark and the township's representative err? Or is the township failing to follow their own policies? For the record, will the committee please provide a conclusive response with reasoning to our question. Does Albert's Alley need to be widened? To conclude, we are not against people wanting to build a house, but a house must be built in a suitable location that leaves no negative impact, short or long term, on the community. Thus, until these issues are appropriately and professionally addressed, we are opposed to this building lot severance. David Storms and Kathy Storms Meyer. I sent these letters to Lucas Kelly, the operations manager of Public Works for the township, for his review and additional comment if he had any. And he did get back to me this afternoon. It is in my opinion that the road has been established and vehicles can drive and navigate Albert's Alley. This one new addition of a residential property is not going to have a significant impact on the existing roadway and subsoils. As I mentioned in my previous email, that the entrance will need to be installed at the north side of the property. With the existing vegetation established on the embankment, this will act as a natural filtration and will maintain bank stabilization. During the entrance permit installation, Public Works can add additional comments. Some may be, but not limited to, brushing along the entire frontage to provide adequate sight lines if required. Sediment and erosion control shall be installed and maintained during the entire length of the project. Grading to be completed so that there is no negative impacts on adjacent properties or roadway. All disturbed areas shall be topsoiled and grass seeded. And this was again from Lucas Kelly, the manager of Public Works. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Sandra. The committee acknowledges that Mr. Clark is here as the agent for the application, and we will certainly be coming back to Mr. Clark in a few moments. Is there anyone else in our audience that is here in support of the application? Seeing none, I shall ask, is there anyone here in the audience in opposition to the application? Again, seeing none, is there anyone with us seeking clarification? Seeing none, Mr. Clark, I shall come back to you. I'm assuming you would like to speak to this application, or maybe you would wish to wait for committee's involvement and they may have questions. The floor is yours, Mr. Clark.
All right, well, I appreciate the comments that have been made. I also appreciate your staff who have reviewed this application on 2 different occasions and have concluded that development on this property can be accommodated without having any negative impact on either water quality in the groundwater or on the vegetation and slopes as they apply. The municipality does have the ability to review the development that goes on this property. And it certainly is, in my opinion, and I believe in the opinion and an intent of the owners that it is not their intent to create any problem. The review of the development was undertaken by a professional engineer who provided his opinion that development was possible on the property. And that is one of the reasons why the location of the access road has been selected so that it would have limited impact on the slope and vegetation on the beside the road itself. I would certainly be available to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Turning to committee members, in a slightly different order of process here. Larry, questions or comments?
Just a few. It seems that there's more issues on Albert's Alley than meets the eye in listening to the opposition from those 2 people. And that's a great concern for me if it's water. You know, does this going to have an impact on our Camborne water supply at the pumping station, as I believe it's pretty close to that area. I don't know. I think maybe we need to have a look at the hydrological studies more intently to reduce the stress on those neighboring properties. I mean, as far as the building on the property, I don't see a problem or on the road, but I am concerned about the issues that they're bringing forward about the hydrological studies with respect to the water quality and quantity. So those are my only two comments at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Mark, if you have anything further questions or comments?
No, I'm supportive of the application. I've seen the other lots that were developed not very long ago in the same near the same location, and a lot of the issues that were involved with those lots have been addressed, and they seem to be, you know, they were buildable and they were developed and they seem to be fine. And this lot's very similar to me, and I really don't have any objection on this one.
Thank you, Mark. Pat?
I honestly think I'm leaning more towards what Larry was saying. When Mark says that there's been no problem since the other lot went in, and the building on that property itself, I don't have a huge issue with. It is the water that I wonder, because we've had two separate people, one saying about there being issues with E. coli in the well in the creek, the other saying that their water pressure on their artesian well has dropped. And not knowing time frame, I'm wondering if that has anything to do with the previous building that's gone up. And I honestly don't know enough about the subject to know whether the two are connected. I'm assuming that would fall under Ganaraska. So I'm struggling with this one. That's all I got for you, Scott.
Anything further, Pat? Sorry.
Nope.
Thank you. Bill?
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, there's a lot of questions that are a little troublesome, all around water. Just to back up, I have one other question, just for clarification. We talked about an occupancy permit, you know, in an existing building on an adjacent lot. Does that have anything to do with the severance that we're talking about today?
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
the parent property does have a large building up on the top of the hill, and the sketch that was submitted with the application said it was a house. This was not permitted to be a house when the permit was issued. An occupancy permit has not been issued, nor has a change of use permit been issued. So it was just for clarification that the chief building official made his statement. This is not a house. This is some other kind of agricultural building.
Okay, so it's for our information, but it doesn't affect the severance that we're looking at.
Either way, it would not affect the severance.
Okay, thank you for that. So back to the question of the water. How do we deal with this? What are our options? I mean, we're talking about water and septic. Those things always are a concern. I'm having a hard time thinking that one more well and one septic system, and the lot's over 2 acres in size. It must be able to not have any difficulty finding an area to put that. But how do we address the questions that are asked? These are legitimate questions that people are asking. And I don't see how we can simply ignore those questions without providing them with some kind of, a satisfactory answer.
Bill, excuse me, could I add to your question? We can come back to your others in a moment. Could I add to your question? Because I'm thinking along that same line. And my question would be to staff. We are dealing with a consent here. And as we all know, there are conditions that can be imposed on a consent, and they have a time restraint tied to them to get the deed in place to fulfill within 12 months. In some of these instances, and again to staff, any staff, in some of these instances, I have the thoughts of development agreement going through my head. Is that an option that can be implemented by a committee if it deems to be necessary to address exactly what Bill's asking about in relationship to water runoff, future wells and hydrogeologist reports? So my question is, can we look at a development agreement in this particular case if we so chose to?
Development agreements are possible. Exactly what committee wants in it, I think, might be debatable, because it kind of sounds like what you're saying. Perhaps grant the provisional consent subject to the development agreement stating they're going to do X, Y, and Z by the end of the day. So once they enter into that agreement, that might lead to more than the 1 year to fulfill conditions, but they're agreeing to fulfill conditions. So I'm not sure, again, what X, Y, and Z would be at the, in the agreement. I'm not sure if that's the intent of a development agreement, why we should be doing it. But if it's something that committee thinks is necessary, that is a condition that could possibly be further discussed and implemented by the committee.
Thanks, Sandra. Coming back to you, Bill, I interjected and I want to provide you an opportunity to follow through.
No, I'm looking for some possibility. We're in an awkward position. We have previously agreed to this consent. And, now here we are waffling someone. I'm with Mark in that I do believe this can go forward, but I also wonder where we stand with regards to doing our due diligence when we have the kinds of questions that have been brought forward by other ratepayers. Where do we stand if we don't do our due diligence? Somewhere down the road, this does go south with regards to water or so on and so forth. What kind of vulnerable position are we in?
Thanks, Bill. I think your and my mindset is the same. They're not frivolous questions, something that we would like to have this lot developed in a satisfactory fashion. So I think that's where you and I are. Pat, coming to you, I see your hand up.
Yeah, am I right in thinking that when it comes to water, that is Ganaraska? Could we do it as it's not? And so Bill Shaker said no.
Well, I'll respond to that. Components of water certainly are Conservation Authority rules and regulations, but we do have a certain responsibility above and beyond the Conservation Authority. In this particular case, it could be the erosion to our road, the sensitivity of the runoff to the road, and those types of things, which may not necessarily be Ganaraska by themselves.
So is there some agency body, I'm not sure what the right word is, that we can forward the letters to and ask if they can comment at the cost of the applicant as to whether or not a hydro-G needs to be done or whether the land is suitable? Because I'm fine with everything but the water issue. And I'm not sure, like, for us to do our due diligence when I know very little scientific practical about this subject, I'm really struggling with making a decision on it. So is there can we make a condition that it has to be reviewed by someone who knows more specifically whether these things are impacted by the building, I guess is what I'm asking.
Would staff like to answer that question at this point in time before we move on to Larry with his questions?
I don't know off the top of my head of an agency that normally does that. However, it's something that I can look into and report back. If this was, I'm thinking out loud, so please bear with me and I apologize. If this was a full plan of subdivision, then yes, a hydro-G would have to be completed and they being the applicant would be engaging their own consultant. So I suppose it's possible. I've never encountered this before, so I'm sorry, I don't have a definitive answer.
Thanks, Sandra. Kate, I believe you would want to speak to this particular topic that's on the floor right now.
Just to make a short comment, it would appear to me, just from listening to the discussion, that you're not in a position to make a decision, because if you are requesting an additional information report that may state that it's not suitable for development, so then you've created a decision to approve that will fail. But I noticed it looks like Mr. Clark's hand is up, perhaps because he is the agent for the developer, that he may have some suggestions on how to approach all of the matters that have been brought up and the concerns that have been identified by the members of the committee.
I acknowledge that we were going to Mr. Clark very quickly, but we will just for a moment go to Larry, who I believe has questions or comments on the topic.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I've been going through, because we're on our own water issues. I'm finding that the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change may be an option to look at, specifically with regards to water, runoff, et cetera, that they seem to be having problems on Alberts Alley. Although we don't own the drinking water that these individuals have because they're wells, we are in some case responsible to ensure the fact that the quality of the water is usable by people. So I have a real concern about this, and I think we should, if staff could take a look at that. I know that the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change Committee, or Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, may have some process that they could put in place or be discussed with regarding quality of water. So I know that it's in their manuals, so maybe it's an option to look at as an option. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Mr. Clark, you can see that our committee is heading towards the concern of the water runoff, hydrogeologic reports and that type of thing. And also the road width and the development adjacent to it for a driveway on this particular lot. So please provide some of your thoughts.
Yes, thank you very much, Scott. With respect to the issue of water quality, there has been in some other consents that we have been involved with a condition requiring the drilling of a well and the proving of no impact on adjacent water quality and quantity. That is a fairly common condition that is applied within some of the areas in which we have been involved. With respect to runoff, the usual conditions have to be can be included that there be a grading and drainage plan which identifies the nature of runoff and how runoff is to be addressed in any future development. That can also be a condition, and that would be subject to the approval of your either your public works people or your consultants responsible for the municipality for engineering review. With respect to water quality and quantity, yes, the ministry are the ultimate agency, but we've also used or have been involved with the Conservation Authority, and the municipality can also review, their staff can review the results of a qualified hydrogeologist who identifies any impact. The usual saying that I've heard is that it's like a straw in a swimming pool, that if you have an adequate supply of water for development, the amount of water that's used by an individual well will not or should not have a dramatic effect. But of course, that requires proof.
Thank you, Bob. in your reference to the conditions that might be implemented here, they were conditions of the severance and they were fulfilled within 1 year.
Yes, they were.
And as a representative of the applicant, you would be in keeping with that process?
I obviously haven't had an opportunity to speak to my client, but I believe that that is a reasonable way to proceed, given the nature of the concerns that have been raised.
Would you like an opportunity to speak to your client on this, or would you like the committee to move forward with its decision? And of course, I don't know what that decision is going to be yet.
I guess I'm looking for some direction from the committee if they want to defer or if they're willing to proceed on the basis that they establish conditions which will address the concerns that have been raised.
Well, I'll go back to committee members and simply ask, any further questions or comments? Yes, Pat.
Would the drilling of the well prior to the building of the house show whether or not it had an impact on the water pressure of that artesian well?
Yes, it can.
So
Through the testing method, Pat, they would do a drawdown on the new well,
Yeah.
and you would physically see or be able to record a result on adjoining wells or adjacent wells.
so there is a way for that to answer that concern.
Yes.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, it's not an uncommon requirement for a hydrogeologist to do as your chairman has identified, to do a drawdown and to test the impact on adjacent wells.
Okay, and then site plan would help with making sure runoff is going in an appropriate manner. Am I right with that
That's
one?
correct.
So both would be being addressed. Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from the committee members? Well, it would appear as though we're in a position to make a motion. We do have a great debate on this topic, and I would ask that someone please bring forward a motion. Mark.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the application with the with 2 additional conditions. One, I believe our roads, Lucas had already looked after the conditions dealing with the runoff and so forth. So I'm quite satisfied with including those within our conditions. And if there's anything else needed by an engineering report that Lucas feels is necessary, I would gladly add that to that as a condition. I would also add that a well be pre-drilled and that it is studied and looked upon to see how it impacts the neighboring residents along Alberts Alley, and if there is a negative impact, that I guess there'd be no further development on that property until some other alternative would be established. So I mean, I don't know what else we can say in dealing with that test well. I mean, that would be the only reason we would put it there, would be to try it and see how it reacts with the other neighbors. And I mean, if it's not going to react with them in a big negative or in a negative way where they're going to run out of water or change their quality, then I would see the application proceed. So I would just add those 2 conditions to the application, and hopefully Sandra can word that properly or change the wording so that it makes a little more sense. But I think that gets the gist of everyone's concerns anyway.
Seconder to the motion.
Scott, I'm willing to second it, but I just need a little bit of clarification from Mark. So are we including a site plan that in itself includes a drainage plan that would be supervised by our chief building officer?
Lucas gave us those when his report came forward. He basically gave us all of that. So I would include everything that he had within his report, and if he needs any further engineering done within his report, that be added as part of that condition. So
I don't think Lucas's report though includes what will happen on the lot itself. Like he's commenting on what will happen at the driveway, at the bank, at the road. But I'm wondering if we shouldn't include the site itself, the lot
site.
itself, so that it can be contoured so that it doesn't bring all the water to Albert's Alley. That there might be other things that could be done to mitigate.
yeah, we did that similarly with those other lots that were along Albert's Alley. So yeah, I can agree to that, Bill, that that be part of that.
I would be more comfortable seconding it if I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, technically, we've moved and seconded, and Bill, you've spoken to it in what I would consider a friendly amendment to the motion. Since you're the seconder, we obviously see where you stand. Going back, Mark, you are in support of the modification to the program there so far. I, however, though, maybe see this a little bit different again. I believe that we should be referencing in this condition our site plan committee, which consists of more departments within the township. And if we get it into the site plan committee process and they find that they need engineering on a specific topic before they can approve it, then they have the right and the privilege to do so within the committee level. If they feel that what is originally submitted is sufficient, then it can move forward without that additional information. And as such, I should like to make that a friendly amendment to the concept here, if the mover and seconder is in agreement with my thoughts.
Sure.
I agree with anything that's going to make this, safer and turn out the way we want to turn out. So.
And I see Kate's come on side here, who probably wants to provide a comment.
Sandra also has her hand up.
Thank you, Bill.
So you've added 2 conditions. Generally, when we add conditions such as these, they're to the satisfaction of someone. Are they to the satisfaction of just municipal staff of the township? The site plan, is that to the satisfaction of the site plan committee? Is the drilled well and the quality, quantity, and assessment of impacts of adjacent wells report, is that to the satisfaction of township staff, or is that to be reviewed by I think Bob had suggested the Conservation Authority do reviews with respect to hydrology reports, or so just so that it's very, very clear to staff who has the sign off on these conditions.
Kate, I believe the site works should be to the satisfaction of the site plan committee.
Yeah, and the water, I would think, would also go not just to the staff of the township, but perhaps reviewed by the Ganaraska Conservation Authority.
So that would be a full-blown hydrogeologist report provided by the applicant at the applicant's expense to be submitted to the township and the Conservation Authority for review and comment. Sandra, I see your hand still up, please.
Thank you. I'm trying to go by my memory, and it's been a rough couple of years for everybody, so I'm not remembering everything fully. But a lot of this was previously discussed when the application came forward, and the extra studies were done as requested by committee and found to be satisfactory. Some of the things that you're speaking of today, site plan review, staff does that anyway with respect to a new house. I'm not sure what you want in addition to what staff already does. And I will need a little more clarification on exactly what your additional conditions are, so I know how to write the decision page. But I just put a few things out there that I think a lot of this was previously covered. Maybe I'm mixing my green apples and red apples, but I think a lot of it was covered, and some of it, some of the questions being raised are repetitive questions. Maybe they're still good ones, but I think they are repetitive.
I'll respond to that. They may very well be repetitive. However, anything to do with the previous application is not before us today, in that application had an opportunity to move forward. The applicants did not meet those conditions. We need to look at this application as a completely new application. If there's information already done by the applicant that can be resubmitted and it's current, then that could certainly be used. In the event that we have changed the conditions, we may have very well have brought forward the idea that this work will need to be done, or these conditions will need to be met before the deed is stamped. And that may be one component that we've changed slightly. Any other committee member comments? Pat, I see your hand moving, but yes, okay, please, Pat.
Just a comment in terms of the hydrogeologist report. Even if one was done, and I don't recall one being done, but I'm not certain. If one was done, it was prior to the impact of the new well that was put on the other property. So I would still like it to be updated.
Thank you, Pat. Larry, I believe you had question or comment.
I just have one comment. The individual who wrote and said that their well was somewhat degraded and had E. coli, et cetera, I think we need to say that that individual should do a study themselves for the issues that presented. But the other issue that they presented, which is a concern about storm runoff, is that seems to be happening currently and has no impact at all on the property that we're talking about. So I have a concern about where that problem's coming from, and should we be taking a look at that issue also in beyond the Committee of Adjustment?
Certainly valid thoughts, Larry. However, as you know, as we all know, we must deal with the application that's in front of us rather than the other scope of work that sometimes gets brought into our thoughts and our comments. Is there any further discussion from anyone? Sandra, do you feel comfortable in what the committee's direction is here in relationship to that additional first and second condition?
That's where I would like some clarification. So I think I'm hearing you want a Hydro-G report. Is that correct?
Correct. A satisfactory Hydro-G report reviewed by township staff and GRCA.
Both.
Right. And so that's the drilled well and the down draw and all that. That's all in one?
It's a full-blown Hydro-G, yes.
Okay, all right, I understand that a little better. And then some kind of engineering report with respect to runoff?
No.
Site plan control rules and regulations to apply for the building envelope and the grading for septic well driveway. So all the conditions in the site plan control bylaw would be implemented here.
So you want
Through the
you want
chair.
a development proposal to come in and be approved in principle before I stamp the deed?
Correct. They would both be conditions. Arthur, please.
I think you were asking for that to be approved by the site plan committee.
Yes.
Okay, I think I understand better now. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, I'd also like to see our roads supervisor has put a report forward. I'd also like to see those conditions put forward as needed. So I mean, whatever he feels is necessary.
As a member of the site plan committee, I'm sure Mr. Kelly will have an opportunity to implement.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Okay, just for clarity here, so that we have all of this communicated adequately, both for our minutes and for Mr. Clark, who's been diligently taking minutes throughout this recent period of conversation. Is there anything further on the conditions themselves from anyone's point of view? Mr. Clark, shake your head yes or no if you would, please. It's understood, I'm sure. Thank you. Anything further from staff? Any staff?
I have nothing, thank you.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded for approval with the conditions that were originally with this report, as well as 2 additional conditions. And we've talked about those at length. Anything further for discussion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote, please. All those in favor of the motion? Thank you. Sandra, I believe we need conditions or reasoning for this as well.
Yes, please.
Well, at this point in time, I actually forget who's made the motion, but I got Mark in my head with Bill as a seconder.
That's what I have.
So if that's correct, would you please provide those comments?
I'll quickly say that, you know, our staff and all commenting agencies were in support of the application. So I'll just leave it at that unless my seconder has more to add.
Seconder, Bill?
I just think it's worth commenting that we did hear the opposition people speak, and we did, you know, try to make some adjustments to, you know, answer the kinds of questions or the concerns that they had. I think it's important that we know we often speak about the input from the public, and I think their input did influence the way we went forward with this.
Thank you, Bill. Sandra, are those sufficient for your documentation?
I believe so, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Clark. Moving on to other business. Oh, Pat, sorry, you had something? Okay, moving on to other business. We had an amendment to the agenda, and I spearheaded this. I will speak to it first to generate conversation. I had the opportunity to be speaking to a couple of staff members earlier today to find out that the next Committee of Adjustment meeting will have numerous applications, potentially up to 16, which is a awkward thing for committee members, for the meeting itself, as well as site reviews, as well as staff preparing reports. And we must keep in mind that when these applications are sent out, the responses from the agencies tend to get close to the deadline for review, putting staff in a position where they're dealing with this or attempting to deal with this in a very short period of time. In addition to that, we advertise that our Committee of Adjustment is going to be held at 2 o'clock. And we have people from the gallery sitting from 2 o'clock for an extended period of time. And I'm really not sure that's fair to them. So I share this information with you in providing an opportunity for debate as to how do we deal with this. And one of those staff people that I spoke to earlier today was our CAO, Arthur Anderson. And in that conversation, we spoke of maybe an additional meeting time, maybe an additional meeting day. And we left it all as in the form of questions, to be quite honest with you. Simply needing committee's direction on this concern of mine. Arthur, could I turn this over to you for a moment and give you an opportunity to speak to it as well?
Yes, certainly. Thank you, Chair Jib. I actually had a subsequent quick discussion with our clerk as well, and some of the issues that we talked about could be, for example, to deal with the large number of applications, we might want to look at the type and the nature of those applications. Are they returning applications? Are they ones that, in other words, the committee will be reasonably well versed with already? Or are the applications themselves brand new and very complex? So I was hoping to have some kind of that discussion or briefing from either the clerk or from our planning coordinator, Sandra, as part of this discussion. The second part of that is if we do in fact scope it, that there's a fair amount of time and effort required, both of the committee, of staff, and of the people attending, we could structure it. We do not presently have any committee of the whole issues scheduled for the 1 o'clock timeframe before the 2. So we could advertise, start the meeting earlier, scope it so that we have all consents dealt with at the earlier component or all minor variances, or flip it one way or the other, so that people have a projected time to which they would be able to attend. So I think the discussion is to have a better sense of what is actually coming, what will in fact be expected in the way of applications. Are they repeat? Are they brand new, fresh applications with a lot of complexity and site visits required? And then have the discussion around, can we structure that and use our day and time that committee members would likely have available to meet.
Thanks, Arthur. We also have to be cognizant of the fact of the amount of prep time that all our staff need to deal with 16 applications or potentially 16 applications. Kate, I'm not sure. No, I was going to say, Kate, your hand's up, but it's actually my mouse indicator that's on your screen. Sorry. Bill, your hand's certainly up.
Yeah, can I just clarify the date? Is that the 21st? September?
September 14th.
It's the 14th. Okay, thank you. Just a thought or just a comment. We had two we had applications and a consent to deal with today. It took us just over an hour. 16, we're looking at 6 to 8 hours. I think we have to break it up. Is there any possibility we could have a morning and an afternoon session?
We'll leave that as a
Just throwing it
question to get, we'll leave that as a question, Bill.
Yeah,
for
it's a
this
question. I'm
moment.
just throwing it out there.
We'll go and see what other questions we are and then come back to them all maybe at once. Pat, you have a question.
I'm in the same thinking as Bill, is that it was close to actually an hour and a half today, and they were both consents that had been here before. So in my head, typically 6 or 7 is where I feel like with a mixture of minor variance and severance is sort of the limit of what we'd end up doing in a day where we still may it run long. So I'm wondering if we should actually be looking at 2 dates and then try and split them so we can say to people morning or afternoon. Hopefully the second day would only be a half day, but I feel like we're going to need 3 half days to get through everything. And I'm fine with it being all on one, but I would not want to be the person who is the 9th application on the 14th and then finding out that, it's 5 o'clock and everybody's brain is done. So I think we should split them more than just one day.
Thank you, Pat. Mark or Larry, any questions or comments?
I'm along the lines with Pat. I think you almost have to do this in 2 days. And I don't mind doing morning and afternoon if needed on those 2 days. Because I mean, you get into, you can't do many more than 8 in a day. I mean, you just won't, your memory won't be there when it comes from application to application. At least mine isn't anyway. Plus you get to the point where you kind of want to get done. So yeah, I'm for 2 days and maybe split them out if we go to the next week even, or 1 week and then go to the next week after council perhaps.
No.
Kate, just before we go to you, I'm going to pick up on what Pat said about being the number 9th application. I think I'd be happier being number 9 than I would be 16th, to be honest with you. Kate, coming back to you, please.
Sandra, could you just review with the members of the committee, how many of those applications are returning or deferred from a previous meeting? And which ones are they? Just so we can kind of get a gauge of how complex they might be. And then how many are new minor variances? and how many are consents? I'm pretty sure you told me one of them was, it's one property with two severances on it. If you can just review that.
Okay, I'm expecting to return with the Benai variance. I'm expecting to return with the Papaleo consent. I believe there's definitely 2, possibly 3 new variances. And, oh, maybe the 4th new variance actually, because I just got something today. And then consents, there's a lot addition. There's actually 2 different lot additions. There's a triple creation. And then there's a quad in that. I don't want to get everybody all riled up right now, but properties merged in title, technical reason, and they want to reestablish the lot line. So the 4 lots are being recreated. And I stress the word recreated. So 1, 2, 3, yeah. 5 consent files and 1, 2, 3, 5 variance files, but the consent files are multiples.
Thanks, Sandra. That's good information considering you didn't know we were going to have this conversation today. Interestingly enough, when you mentioned the first 2 applicants, 2 potential first 2 applications, the one out at the lake, and I forget the address, but we spent lengthy time on it twice previously, and I would suspect that that will occur again. I mean, I don't think it's fair to all parties involved to think that we can do that many applications in one day. Forgive me, but I don't know whether my back could take it that long without a break in there somewhere. And I'm serious when I say that. How would we like to move forward with this? To be fair to staff in particular, if you have the date split, you know, a Monday and a Tuesday, for example, then we haven't eliminated that concern of that overload for staff, because 24 hours is insufficient to deal with a whole lot of different applications. Any thoughts of holding it a week later or 2 weeks later, those types of things?
I really don't like that idea of putting it off to a different week. I can make it work for 2 different days in 1 week. Putting it off to a different week really impacts the rest of my organization for the council meeting the following week, and then putting out decisions and then putting out new notices for October. So I would not prefer a different week.
Very well.
On the same day, different date, same week, I will do my best to make that work, but my preference is not different weeks.
Sandra, would you want a day in between, or would you want a Tuesday and a Thursday, or what example would be the best for you?
Look at the September. Maybe Tuesday and Thursday, I guess.
I've got Thursday
I
afternoon.
do variances on one day and consents on the other. And maybe that would be helpful. I'm throwing this out for discussion as well.
I think we're all there. There's no conclusion yet. We're just trying to get the best for all parties.
It's just a matter of what we can fit in our calendars. I have Thursday afternoon. I have all day, the 14th all day, and I have the 16th in the afternoon open. I'm just throwing that out to people.
Thanks, Bill. Pat, anyone, Larry, Mark, what's your thoughts?
Thursday is difficult for me, but if it was just afternoon, I could probably hop on for a couple hours. I'd be better with it being Wednesday or Friday.
I'm flexible at the moment, so I'm either way.
I've got county council on Wednesday. Monday's open the 13th. That's back-to-back days.
Arthur, please.
Just note for both you, Chair Jib, as well as Member Williamson, we have the Ad Hoc Water Committee on the Thursday of the Thursday sorry, look at the right date.
16th.
Thursday the 16th in the afternoon.
Thursday, the 16th in the afternoon.
Right.
I have it on the 21st and 22nd, Arthur, of September.
For ad hoc water?
Yeah, there was our Larry, what do you have documented? Do you recall?
Yeah, I've got the earlier one, which is just our meeting prior to the ad hoc, which is on the 20, I forget what it is, the 21st or something.
I have the earlier meeting on the 21st and the real ad hoc meeting on the 22nd is what I have.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I knew it was the 21st. I don't have my thing here, so I try to keep it away so it doesn't interrupt.
Staying with consistency here, everyone, I suggest I'm probably wrong with those, but Arthur, can you confirm one way or the other?
I'll double check that then, sure. So we had a planning meeting for water committee on Friday the 10th. And we have the ad hoc water in my schedule so far as the 16th at 1 p.m. I will check some emails as we're speaking. But it was a Friday pre-meeting and the actual meeting on the following week.
Yeah, September the 10th is the
Pre-meeting.
new meeting that was originally, I think, August the 10th.
Correct. That's right.
Yeah.
And I have in person in the council room or committee at 9:30 in the morning on the 10th. And then maybe because of my own confusion, I have water again on the 21st and 22nd, but nothing on the 16th for water.
I thought the 21st was the water meeting, the ad hoc water meeting. But we could check that.
We had the problem with seeing the 21st is that's council. But the reason we had the 16th was it was the third Thursday, I think, in the month that we had been trying to work towards with that group. However,
Well,
I'll check some notes.
It could be moved to benefit the Committee of Adjustment and our applicants.
Yeah, it can be moved. It is in our minutes. That just to sort of add a note reminder here. It is in the 16th in our minutes of the water ad hoc committee.
Okay.
Could we do the Friday morning instead of messing around with the Thursday?
That's another possibility.
Or could we do the Monday? Why don't we do Monday, Tuesday?
That works for me too.
Yeah.
Sandra, coming
good.
back to you, 2 days back to back, is that sufficient break?
Double checking my date. I'm sorry.
Can't hear you, Sandra. My question was if we go the 13th and 14th, is that enough of a break?
Yeah, I'll have it already the week before anyway, when I send out the agenda. I can do the 13th and 14th at this point. Yes.
Do we have a time for the Monday then?
16th.
Wait a minute. We got Parks and Rec on the 13th and road.
And
We got
roads on
Parks
the
and Rec and
13th.
roads on the 13th.
We have to go the following Monday.
Yeah, that's not good.
I got Safe Communities. I'm
There's,
leaning towards changing the 16th to another day.
for water.
Yeah,
That will work as well. We can work with that committee group.
Larry, you sit on water. Are you okay with that change? Larry, you're on mute now, sorry.
But I'm good with that. Yeah, I'm good.
Arthur, can we make that, can we make it an effort to make that work? And then, we could always circulate a change if we needed to go to another date. I mean, some of you at staff, I'm sure, have our agendas available to you. Pat, just for the record, could you state your work days again?
I can, okay, normally I work Thursdays. I can get the afternoon off. I might be able to swing the morning too, but it's iffy. But also if these are multiples, like the consents and such, we probably only need a day and a half, because when it's multiple, they don't take quite as long. So if it was all day Tuesday and then half day Thursday, I would have no problem at all.
Okay, so Tuesday and,
Tuesday, Thursday, I'm available. Friday, I'm available. Wednesday.
okay, Tuesday, Thursday, I'm still leaning towards Sandra. Sorry.
And
Um,
I'll work
and-
with, with Emily to email the committee and set up a new ad hoc water committee date.
Okay. Okay, do we need a motion? And we've gone very informal in our conversation here. Do we need a motion to change these dates? Kate, please.
Can you confirm the times, please?
Okay, I'm gonna throw this out because I'm gonna say 1 o'clock for both the Tuesday and Thursday meeting. No, well,
I'm thinking
that-
all day Tuesday. Do 10, like 10 to 12 and 1 to 4. You're not thinking we're going to need to like a full day and a half day with 16, even though they're multiple?
Can we leave it in your hands, Mr. Chair, to come up with, we know the 2 days, maybe you can discuss with staff and see, you have a pretty good idea of how much time's needed. And come back, give us, come back with a schedule for us. Would that work? Because I mean, we could argue here for an hour, but I mean.
Yeah, I'm certainly willing to do that and maybe have a chance to look at the applications myself and see how long we could hopefully know what we're gonna spend on them.
I'd be happy with that if you could do that.
Right, if you know we're available all day Monday and Thursday afternoon, then go ahead and send us the times. That's what you've got to work with.
Very well. Everyone seems to be in agreement with that. We have consensus.
Did we end up with Monday or Tuesday for the first day?
Tuesday's the first day, the 14th.
14, 16.
14, 16, yes, Arthur, yes. Okay, we've had a lot of discussion here, hopefully improving our opportunity to be efficient in the next month. I have nothing else under other business. Is anyone willing to make a motion of adjournment? I see multiple hands here.
Pick two, Scott.
I think we even had staff vote yes on that. Moved by Larry, seconded by Bill. Thank you, one and all.
I will have today's decisions ready for signature by the end of this week, probably before. So please let us know when you're coming in. As you're aware, the office is now open to the public and we're trying to make sure everybody has an appointment. I noticed Mark has left. So please let me know when you're coming in and I will set up committee room A for you to come in and do your signatures. It's not gonna be too bad. It's only 2 pieces of paper this time.
Sandra, based on the fact that Mark left us, could you just email everyone on that, please?
I will, but yeah, yes, of
Okay.
course.
Thanks,
Bill, you were
Sandra.
saying?
I'm out Thursday afternoon. If they're ready, I'll sign it.
Okay, I'll strive for Thursday afternoon.
If not, I can come back. I'm close. Don't worry about it.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.